Hey everyone, what is going on? I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. Today I have a really good video for everyone that could benefit you in so many ways. Today I'm going to show you guys 20 different tips on how to save battery on your iPhone. Now some of these tips are common knowledge, but there are some more advanced tips as well that could potentially save you 10, 20, even 30% battery throughout the entire day. First things first, what you have to understand is your display. Your phone is taking up a lot of battery by keeping that display on. Therefore, tip number one, go ahead and lower your brightness. I mean, if you don't have a need for all that brightness, definitely lower that sucker. I can guarantee you, if you go from say 75% brightness down to maybe 40-ish%, you're gonna see huge differences in your battery life. Like, I'm not even kidding. I know a lot of us like to have our battery almost to max, but believe me, just lower it down a bit. Tip number two has to come down to wallpapers. So now let me explain something about OLED panels, right? So this is specifically for the iPhone 10, 10s, and the 10s Max. So with an OLED panel, what that's gonna mean is that every single pixel on the screen is gonna have its individual own lighting. So there's not a backlight making your screen turn on. So when you have a very vibrant wallpaper like say this one, that is taking up almost every single pixel on your screen to light up different colors. Now if you're to have something more toned down, like say this wallpaper, so now those blacks are true blacks. That means that those pixels aren't turned on, or well, they may be, but they're not consuming as much energy as like say something very bright like this wallpaper. So in terms of saving battery on your iPhone 10, 10s, or 10s Max, I would highly recommend using a wallpaper that's a little bit more toned down and has more blacks. I guarantee you that will make an enormous difference on your battery. Tip number three. Now this has to do all with notifications. Alright guys, so I know there's a lot of us who stay on Twitter, on Instagram, and Snapchat, and we get a ton of notifications regularly. What I would recommend, every single time you get a notification, your screen is going to turn on. And so every single time it turns on, that's consuming battery that you're not even really using. It's in your pocket and it's turning on and off. You get these notifications. So go into your settings and adjust any notifications so any unwanted notifications won't come up and won't drain that battery. All you have to do is go to settings, go to notifications here, and turn off whatever you don't need. I love clashing on Clash Royale, but I had to turn off those notifications because I was always bombarded with their notifications, and I actually did see a big improvement. So just go in there, turn off any notifications you know you really don't care about, and that's gonna save a ton of battery, believe me. Tip number four, this is gonna go hand in hand with notifications, and I'm talking about the vibrations that each notification gives. So every time you get a notification, there's that switch, that sensor inside your phone that activates the vibration haptics, and that is using up some battery as well. What I would do is I would go into your settings and adjust whatever notification you don't want to immediately notify you with. I actually only have my phone and text messages vibrate anytime I get a notification. That saves a ton of battery. All you have to do is go under settings, go to notifications, and just turn off whatever you don't want to vibrate. For example, if we go here into Snapchat, I have those sounds turned off. If I were to turn them on, now every time I get a Snapchat, I'm gonna get a vibration, and that is gonna use up a lot of battery, believe me. Just say in a day, if you get 100 different snaps, your phone is gonna vibrate 100 different times. So just go ahead and turn that off. There's no need really to have that. In the long run, you'll see substantial increases to your battery life. So tip number five has to do with that Wi-Fi. So absolutely, whenever you're home, always use Wi-Fi. Your Wi-Fi is gonna use a lot less battery than like say 3G or your LTE. However, whenever you leave your house, go ahead and turn your Wi-Fi off, because what's gonna happen is once you leave your parking lot, and if that Wi-Fi is still turned on, your phone is automatically going to be searching and searching and searching for every single Wi-Fi network it comes in contact with. So by turning that off, you eliminate that need for your phone to constantly be looking for other Wi-Fi sources. So turn that off whenever you're dipping, dude, for real. Moving on to tip number six. So this one is a little bit more advanced, and it's going to help considerably, especially on the OLED phones, again, the 10, 10s, and 10s Max, and that's reducing the intensity of your white colors. So all you have to do is go here under General. We're going to go to Accessibility. Go right here where it says Display Accommodations, and look right there. You have a little slider for reducing white point. So what that's gonna do is, instead of making all these white colors really, really bright and using a lot of that energy to, to portray those white colors, go ahead and just reduce that. Look, check it out. If I slide this, then all my white colors now are a little more dimmed down, and that's gonna help drastically. So instead of having it, completely off, go ahead and turn that on and just slide it to whatever you desire. I normally have it at about 43%. That's gonna save a ton of battery. Do this trick for real. I guarantee you it's gonna save you some battery. All right, we got number 7, and this is a huge one. This is about background app refresh. So if you don't know what that means, whenever you go up and you see all your different apps that are open, this is background app refresh. So basically, all of these apps that are suspended, if you have background app refresh turned on, it means that it's constantly going to refresh the content on that application. So if it were like, say, a game or, I don't know, a video, it's constantly going to refresh it, and that's going to use up a ton of your battery. In order to turn that off, go to settings, go to general, and you have a whole section on it right here called background app refresh. Go ahead and turn that off. I already have it off by default. You could have it on only with Wi-Fi or on only with Wi-Fi and cellular, but I would go ahead and just turn it off. I mean, there's no need for my apps to constantly refresh in the background. If I need them to refresh, all I have to do is go to that application itself and it's refreshed. It's no need to do that in the background. Turn background app refresh off on your phone right now, and trust me, you'll be back and you'll thank me. We're moving right along saving battery. So number 8 is low power mode. Now this one is a well-known tip, but basically, in order to activate low power mode, you can do it one of two ways. Pull up your control center right here, and I have a little shortcut for my low power mode. It's gonna be right there. Or you can hit up your settings and scroll down, and you'll see the battery right here. Go ahead and click battery, and you can turn on low power mode right there. And as you can see, it says that low power mode temporarily reduces background activity like downloads, and it'll, dim your screen a little bit. And this is a really good way to preserve that battery life when you're under 20% and you know for a fact you won't be near a charger. So this one has saved my life countless times. This one is also big. I know so many people who just refuse to upgrade their operating system, but man, you have to do it, especially if you don't have iOS 12. iOS 12 was a breakthrough in terms of performance, battery, and just in general stability. I mean, look at these stats. There's a new iOS version, iOS 12.1.4, that came out, and on average, it adds 0.5% to your battery and about 0.30% to performance. You have to optimize your phone. That's why these operating systems are constantly being updated so that your phone can work at peak performance. So my recommendation is to always be up to date on your operating system. In order to check, I would go to settings, then we would go to general right here, and you're gonna see right there software update. So just click that, and if you do have an update, it'll show up right there, and then you can update your phone. So that's a big one for optimization. Halfway into 20 tips, we got tip number 10, and this as well, man, I keep saying these are all big, but man, trust me, these are all big. Number 10, we got True Tone. So True Tone was a new feature that is pretty new, actually. I believe they either came out with True Tone on the iPhone 7 or the iPhone 8 and 10. I can't remember right now, but it's phenomenal. What True Tone does is it makes your screen warmer whenever you're indoors. And something else you have to know about OLED panels, again, your phone is going to consume different amounts of battery depending on what color is on your screen. I'm going to give a rundown on which colors consume the most battery and which ones do not. So going from least to greatest, we have black, then green, yellow, red, pink colors, and lastly blue and white take up the most battery. So having True Tone display is going to help out tremendously, because if you don't have it turned on, your screen is going to appear a little bluish. It's going to have that blue tint to it. So in order to access True Tone, we're going to go to settings again, and we're going to go to display and brightness, and you're going to see True Tone turned on right there. If I were to turn it off, you can kind of see it's kind of hard to portray on camera, but my screen turned a little blue there. Let me turn it on now, and now it's a little warmer. And so that, believe it or not, is going to help a lot, because like I said, blue and white colors are going to take up the most battery. Having that turned on is going to make those white and blue colors just a tiny bit warmer. And not only that, but it's really good on your eyes. That blue color is not good for your eyes to be looking at screens all the time. So not only is it going to save you battery, it's also going to save your eyes simultaneously. So you're welcome. Number 11 is just kind of a given. So on iOS 12, we were able to better manage our battery and track our battery. So tip number 11 is just being on top of your game in terms of being acquainted with your battery. So if we go to settings and if we go to battery, we're gonna have a little chart here that's going to show us how our battery has degraded over the past 24 or 48 hours or whatever it is. You can also check your battery health here. Mine, thankfully, is at 100% capacity. If that drops below, I would say maybe 75, then that means that your battery is becoming old and now you may suffer performance. Being at under that 75 or 70%, you'll notice that your phone may shut off at 4% or 5% battery life, and that's because it's trying to protect the battery. So my recommendation would be to scroll down here and check out what apps are using the most battery. As you can see, I was clashing earlier, so 24% of my battery that was drained was thanks to Clash Royale. So you'll really be able to see what apps you spend the most time on and try your very best to stay away from them to help save battery. Next up would be Snapchat, which Snapchat is notorious for taking up a lot of battery. And then we got YouTube and Instagram. So definitely get acquainted with this section of your phone, of your battery, and you can even do it in the past 10 days instead of 24 hours. And I guarantee you, once you know which apps are taking up your battery, you'll be able to make smarter moves in terms of battery performance. This next one is a lot less known, and it has to do with the magical phrase, "Hey blank." Now I'm not gonna say it because I don't want to, turn on all of you guys' devices, but what I would do is I would turn off that magical phrase. Now, why would you do that? That's because if you have that turned on, your phone is constantly listening for the Siri command. If you have that turned on, it means that your phone is just chilling, always listening. So that's a little weird. I know our privacy is being invaded all the time by like Facebook and other applications. So if you're already paranoid, it's another reason to turn it off. So to turn off that Siri phrase, you'd go to settings, scroll down here to Siri, and then you're gonna have all of this here. I would turn off listen for "Hey Siri." Sorry for the pause, I just don't want to turn on you guys' devices. So right now I have it on, which means that my phone now is constantly listening for that phrase. Turn it off, that way your phone's not having to constantly be ready for that phrase, and it's gonna save you a good amount of battery. Now tip 13, and this also has to do with privacy, and this is a big one. So by default, Apple is going to have a lot of your location services settings turned on, and that's a little creepy. I mean, you'll be able to see on here that it tracks almost your every move, and it locating you all the time is eating up at your battery. Not only is it scary because I feel like we're being spied on all the time, but it's considerably draining your battery. So go back into settings, then you're going to go here into privacy, go to location services, and you'll see all this list of apps, right? Never have an app always looking for your location. If you allow that to happen, your phone is constantly being updated with where your location is. So most of these apps I only allow to track my location while I'm in that application. I do not have a single app on here that is always constantly tracking my location. Go into your settings and either turn everything all off by just simply doing turn off location services, and you can turn it off there, or go in manually and see which apps you're giving permission for your location. Trust me, this is a huge one, and it's a big privacy concern as well, because if we go to system services here as well, I have most of these things turned off because it's kind of scary. This will be able to tell you where your average location is. I mean, it's kind of scary if you go deep into these settings, like significant locations. And so it's just so scary that your phone is tracking where you normally stay. So, I mean, if you turn that on, it'll give you a list of all your places that you normally visit. And it's just kind of weird. So I would turn that off. I have most of these settings turned off, except, for traffic, find my iPhone, and share my location whenever I'm requesting to share it. But everything else, man, just go ahead and turn everything else off. You really don't need all that. We're getting closer to the end. We got tip number 14 coming up. This is on your auto lock. So I'm victim of it. I know everyone is. You can't even lie. So a lot of the times we're using our phones and we just set it down and forget to turn off the display. If your auto lock is set to 5 minutes, those 5 minutes that it's sitting on the desk, it's just eating at your battery. And more than likely, it'll drop down your battery by a percentage or two. So go into your settings, you're gonna go down to display and brightness, and look at how your auto lock is set up. I have mine so that after 1 minute, it'll auto lock by itself. Now, I think by default it's at 5, so think about 3-4 times throughout the day, you lay your phone down, and 20 minutes the display is on, unwanted, and it's just eating at your battery. It's just an example, and we do it all the time. So set it to something lower. 30 seconds I've found is a little too quick, so I normally do a minute, but hey, you do you. 15, to continue chugging on and saving some battery, has to do with your flashlight on here. So unless you absolutely need the brightest setting for your flashlight, go down to your control center and you'll find your battery right here. All you have to do is 3D touch on it, and you'll be given this little slider right here, right? Or long press if you have like the iPhone XR or a device that doesn't have 3D touch enabled. Slide the slider up or down. Now, most people have the flashlight here on the brightest setting. So even having your flashlight on in this setting for 2 or 3 minutes, man, is gonna drop your battery by a good bit. So if you don't need that high of an intensity, just bring the slider down. In pitch darkness, this amount of light is enough. Unless, again, like I said, if you absolutely need all that light, go ahead and run it on that intensity. But for most cases, the first little notch or two is plenty of light. So that would be my next tip, is your flashlight. And it's something we really don't think about. Next, we have tip number 16. That is airplane mode in rural areas. So let me explain something to you. When you turn on your airplane mode, that is essentially supposed to be used while you're on an airplane, hence the name, right? That's gonna turn off just about everything on your phone. It's gonna disconnect your Wi-Fi, it's gonna disconnect your Bluetooth, but more importantly, it's gonna disconnect 3G connectivity. Let's say that you're in a rural area or you're driving by a place that just has really bad connection. I would just go ahead and turn on that airplane mode, because your phone is using up a lot of battery getting that very weak signal. Like, your phone is trying its absolute hardest to get that signal, and it's weak anyway. So if you're browsing the internet on that extremely weak 2G signal, your battery will suffer. So that's what I would recommend. If I'm out stranded in the middle of nowhere with no reception, just turn on airplane mode. Having that weak signal is just gonna be a burden on your phone. A tip that not a lot of people do know, but now you do. This is a not so common one either that many people may or may not know. So this is called a dynamic wallpaper. And what I would do is always disable these, never have these on, because what these kind of wallpapers are gonna do, so let's say I tilt my phone this way, all these sensors now are having to recompensate for that little tilt. If I tilt it this way, the little bubbles are dropping down, and if I tilt it that way, now they're gonna drop this way. So that is making all of your sensors in your phone work a little extra when it doesn't even need to. So shut off any of these dynamic wallpapers, and that includes the parallax effect. So what the parallax effect is, if you haven't noticed, it's hard to portray this on camera, but if you look at your phone from an angle, you'll see that the apps actually themselves are also moving a little bit. It's really hard to tell in here. I would also turn that off. I mean, there's no need for you to have that on, and it's just making your sensors work overtime. So just go ahead and turn off dynamic wallpapers and just get a regular still wallpaper would be my advice. Big. Number 18 is about fetching new data. So your phone by default is gonna want to fetch new data like emails constantly or periodically. What you would do is go here under general, go to passwords and account, and here you're gonna see fetch new data. So I have my push turned to off. If I were to have this on, then that means that my phone is continuously gonna want to look for new emails and stuff like that. It's gonna do it automatically. And on mail is where it's gonna use the biggest amount of juice. So turn that off. That way your phone isn't constantly receiving all of these emails. As a matter of fact, you'll only receive them when you put that app on, right? So here you'll see under fetch, I have mine manually, which means that whenever I want to refresh my emails, I will have to do it, not my phone. And that's going to save a tremendous amount of battery. Now, unless you absolutely need those notifications for those emails, then leave that on. But my life isn't that important where I need to answer emails extremely quickly. Just text or call me. I mean, we're living in 2019, you know? Almost done, sadly, guys. I know you guys want a million tips to save batteries. I only got 20 for you this time. Hopefully in another video, I can get maybe another 20 more. But this is number 19. This is raise to wake. So there's a sensor in your phone that whenever you place it down on a table and turn it off, you can actually just tilt it and it'll show you your notifications. Let me show you what I mean. Go to general, go to display and brightness, and here you'll see raise to wake. I have that turned off, and you might be asking why. And it goes back to all those sensors in your phone, like the gyroscope sensor and all of that. So if I have that on and I want to turn my phone off and I just want to tilt it to see my notifications, it'll turn the screen on, right? if I have that off, then whenever I try to do that, it won't turn on the display. I would actually have to go in there and either press the button or whatever to turn the display on. This is going to save a good chunk of battery because whenever you place it in your pocket, so let's say you put it into your pocket, it may turn on that display unwanted. And like I mentioned previously in this video, your screen is going to take the vast majority of your battery. So imagine if your screen is turning on in your pocket 20, 30, 40, 50 times a day, that display is being turned on for no reason. So that's why I have raise to wake turned off. I mean, really, it's not that hard to just grab your phone and press a little button. Like, it's not gonna kill you. We get to tip number 20. I'm talking about reduce motion on your phone. Now, a lot of you guys might be asking what that means. So by reducing the motion on your phone, there's a lot of graphic intensive, kind of just graphics that come up on your screen, and that is eating away at your battery, at that processor, because it has to display those graphic intensive tasks. And it also reduces the parallax effect as well, which is that thing that I told you about that your apps will kind of wiggle around and move if you tilt your phone. So in order to remove that, you go to your settings, you go to general, you hit accessibility, and once you're here, you're gonna go to reduce motion here. So I have that off, right? So check it out. Whenever I slide up, notice how it kind of just, went home. So the little application itself just kind of like squeezes to that little spot right there. Whenever I turn that on, now check it out. If I swipe home, it just kind of fades away. Check it out again. Even when I go into apps themselves. So let's go back and turn that on. Even when I go to it, it kind of, it pops it out. But reducing that motion will help with that as well. So it just kind of fades away and helps a tiny bit at saving your battery. That's been 20 tips to help save some battery on your phone. Again, like I said, I know there's a lot of us who buy these really expensive phones but really don't know all the tricks to them. I hope these 20 tips will be viable for many of you. You don't have to use all these 20 tips, but I know for a fact at least one of these tips will fit your lifestyle just by making a few adjustments on your phone. And by doing that, your battery will improve drastically. It is really important to preserve the battery on our phones, since nowadays our smartphones control our whole life. And honestly, if I have no battery on my phone, I'm kind of lost, you know what I mean? So always protecting my battery is very important to me. Let me know what you guys think. Obviously, there's so many more tips, so much more advice I could give you on saving your battery. This has just been 20 tips. Comment down below what are some other tips that you have used before in the past to help you save some battery. And with that being said, guys, I'm clocking out of this one. Have a good one.